Walkouts are an underrated part of the MMA experience. They're the thing that prepares the palate for the action that follows. The final chance to get a look at a pair of fighters before the cage doors close. Here are 10 MMA walkouts that are in a league of their own, in terms of tying the whole spectacle together. Darren Till. Darren Till has had some very real struggles of late in the octagon, but if there's one thing constant throughout his career, is that his walkouts are always amazing. And if you can get this former welterweight title challenger out there in front of a UK crowd, you can all but guarantee that his walkout will be intense. With Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline as his chosen anthem, Till has had more than a few great ring walks in recent years. But for our money, it was his UFC Liverpool fight against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson that truly produced the goods. At this point, Till was a blossoming superstar, fresh off of a first-round destruction of Donald Cerrone. And though his tactical chess match with Wonderboy didn't set the world on fire or anything, the atmosphere in Liverpool's Echo Arena was enough to make it a memorable night. Whether you enjoy Sweet Caroline or think it's the most annoying song known to man, you can't help but admit that this stunning walkout is just about as good as it gets in MMA. Jon Jones. There was a lot of emotion in the air when Jon Jones finally made his return from a long suspension due to the infamous hit-and-run incident that nearly derailed his career. As one of the all-time greats of the sport, watching as this self-described party boy was stripped of his title was a uniquely strange sight as we have ever seen. But once his return did come and his short-notice replacement opponent, Ovince St. Preux, was set, Jones promised the world that he was a changed man, walking to the cage to the sounds of I'm Coming Home, a poignant song choice for a special moment. It's just a shame that he couldn't keep his behavior in check. Jump forward a year and Jones would find himself suspended once again, and these days the general public are far less quick to trust him. But at the time, there was a real redemption story at play, and for most of us, we genuinely wanted to see this amazing talent make good on his clear potential. Conor McGregor. The UFC don't do live music walkouts, or at least that's how it goes for 99.9% of fighters. But Conor McGregor has certainly proven himself to be a one-in-a-million talent. And when his first shot at UFC Gold came, an interim title fight against Chad Mendes, Dana White and his team truly went all out. This walkout would have probably been great no matter what the circumstances, but to have the famed Irish singer Sinead O'Connor singing the Foggy Dew to a packed Vegas crowd, yeah, this was something special. Mendes also got a musical introduction, but to this day, the UFC have never again made this type of exception. Maybe they will again in the future, who knows, but for this event it was clear that they wanted to pull out every trick in the book to ensure that the bright new star McGregor was given the most glamorous pay-per-view introduction imaginable. UFC 189 was a true all-time great fight card, and these walkouts were a real cherry on top. Mike Perry. What's Mike Perry doing on a list filled with bona fide MMA superstars? Well, Perry managed to turn one of the strangest mishaps in walkout history into a totally hilarious viral moment. The original plan was for him to walk out to the theme from Halo, the popular video game franchise. The ominous tone and eerie sound would no doubt serve as a perfect backdrop for the violence that would later follow. The problem? Well, someone made a massive mistake backstage and played Beyonce's song Halo instead, an empowering anthem for strong women. Mike Perry, being Mike Perry, went along with it, belting out the lyrics at the top of his lungs. Perry's a pretty intense dude most of the time, and over the years he has not been afraid to speak his mind to whoever will listen. But on this cage walk, he really cut loose, calming the knowledge that he could scratch this fighting itch just a few minutes after this massive mix-up. It was an instantly iconic moment, and probably the funniest entry on this list. Nate Diaz. UFC 202's rematch between Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor had it all. The pre-fight chaos, the in-cage tension, massive stakes, and as it turned out, the fight itself was pretty damn good as well. The stage was set when Conor's usual walkout, featuring Hypnotized by Biggie Smalls, was countered by Diaz, walking out to Tupac's ambitions as a writer. It was the perfect scene, a rivalry that mirrored so many other divides in pop culture. Tupac vs Biggie, West Coast vs East, and of course the more recent entry of Team Diaz vs Team McGregor. The fight week that preceded it was just about as wild as you would expect, but thankfully these two legendary fighters saved the real show for the fight itself. And though Diaz didn't quite manage to get his hand raised, his status as the lovable underdog of the sport was forever set in stone. Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett's rise from the regional hero to global megastar has been one of the craziest superstar trajectories the UFC has ever seen in recent years. To say that the US market latched onto Pimblett rapidly would be putting it lightly. There was something infectious about this blonde mop-top's abilities in front of a microphone. And before he had even set foot in the cage, he was scoring viral moments as soon as he opened his mouth. So when Pimblett was given a hometown opportunity against Jordan Levitt, it was clear that the crowd's reception was going to be insane. And sure enough, this was one of the most joyous and celebratory walkouts the UFC has ever known. Like the Liverpool crowd were being treated to a title fight featuring one of their own. We were not inside the Echo Arena that night, but it sounded absolutely deafening to us. Colby Covington. The world of MMA have slowly come around to the unique charm of Colby Covington. In the earlier days of his career, only his biggest fans didn't find his gimmick jarring or off-putting. But as time has gone on, it's pretty clear that Colby's total lack of subtlety is going down a lot better than it used to. The cheap suits, the terrible promotional ads, the clearly rehearsed one-liners, and the way he caps it all off with the corniest smile in the fight game, yeah, Covington's stock has truly hit another level of late. Taking on the fan favorite Robbie Lawler back in 2019 was always going to make Colby the villain, however, which for him was pretty ideal. So instead of trying to win the fans over, he came out to Kurt Angle's old WWF Walkout song, basically inviting the crowd in Newark to sing "You Suck" the same way pro wrestling fans did all those years ago. It was a creative song choice for Colby, and even if you were supporting Lawler in that fight, it's likely that you had way more fun during his opponent's cage walk. Israel Adesanya. Many of you might not know this, but the dance routine that Israel Adesanya performed prior to his first shot at UFC Gold actually saw him link up with his old dance troupe from New Zealand. The event was held in Marvel Stadium, and to this day it remains the most attended UFC show of all time. With the champion Robert Whittaker as his opponent, Adesanya went all out with his pre-fight ritual, performing a highly choreographed routine with his old buddies that got the venue's crowd ready for what was about to follow. And as you might remember, the fight itself was a display of total domination for the last stylebender. A second-round TKO left him with the middleweight championship of the world, marking one hell of a night for this future Hall of Famer. George St-Pierre. Though he transformed himself into one of the greatest wrestlers to ever lace up gloves in MMA, you would be forgiven for forgetting that George St-Pierre's background is actually in karate. And when the time came to walk out to the cage for UFC 94's rematch between him and BJ Penn, St-Pierre paid homage to his roots, wearing traditional Kyokushin karate robes ahead of what looks set to be the biggest fight of his career. But the other noteworthy thing here was the look of intensity on GSP's face. Not only did he clearly show all of the competitive drive needed to retain his title, but there was also a real sense of fear coming from him. St-Pierre never tried to hide the fact that he was afraid each and every time he walked to that cage. And that really did make his walkout something truly unique. Royce Gracie. What better way to end than with the man who started it all? The original Ultimate Fighting Champion, Royce Gracie. Every single walkout from this pioneer's fighting career was special in its own way. But for our money, it was the rematch between Royce and his old rival Ken Shamrock that really takes the biscuit. During the 1990s, the Gracie family were an unavoidable presence in the fight game, and though their grip on all things MMA would slowly slip at the turn of the century, there was a certain intimidation factor that was very present during these early years. And this was helped by the Gracie-trained walkouts they used to do. Whenever an athlete from the Gracie family competed, the entire Gracie clan or whoever was present would walk them out to the ring, linked together arm and shoulder to signify the bond that held the family together. And every time we played witness to that side, it was a truly amazing spectacle.